How could Tu Youyou deceive the Nobel Prize and the Lasker Foundation Award in Medicine? Lecture 8 continued. Tu Youyou's Dihydroartemisinin was the biggest fraud scandal in the world medicine history. In 1976, Yi Ying from Shanghai Institute of Material Magic synthesized a new drug, Artemisinin, through the modification to the structure of artemisinin. The efficacy of Artemisinin against the chloroquine-resistant malaria strain is 6 times that of artemisinin. Moreover, it is intramuscular injectable. Therefore, Artemisinin is the best anti-malaria medicine so far. During the modification, the reduced artemisinin was used as a middleware to synthesize new drugs. However, its efficacy against the chloroquine-resistant strain is less than double of artemisinin. After her crystal Qinghao 2 failed in 1973 clinical trial in Hainan, Tu Youyou did not have any progress to find new anti-malaria drugs. In 1986, Tu Youyou tried to make the reduced artemisinin to be a new anti-malaria drug. However, its lower anti-malaria efficacy was the biggest obstacle. Then Tu Youyou and her colleagues collaborated to make the biggest medicine cheating scandal in the Chinese medical history by the following tricks. Trick 1. Rename reduced artemisinin to dihydroartemisinin so that people could believe this is a new compound. Trick 2. Using improper data to claim that its anti-malaria efficacy become 10 times that of artemisinin. Trick 3. Obtain the official new drug certificate for dihydroartemisinin from China Ministry of Health such that to crack down all existing objections from other scientists. Now let's listen how Tu Youyou said in her Nobel Prize speech.
1973年起，为研究青蒿素结构中功能奇特而制备的衍生物，经苯氰化钠还原，发明了杀青青蒿素。1992年再获得杀青青蒿素的新药证书。杀青青蒿素的药效高于青蒿素10倍。
In the above speech, Tu Youyou made 2 big lies. Lie 1. In 1973, Tu Youyou and her colleagues invented dihydroartemisinin. Reality check. In 1973, Tu Youyou even was unable to obtain the pure artemisinin. How possible to invent its derivative dihydroartemisinin? Lie 2. The anti-malaria efficacy of dihydroartemisinin is 10 times that of artemisinin. Reality check. This is true only for chloroquine-sensitive malaria strain, but false for chloroquine-resistant malaria strain. What a true misleading statement. In November 8, 1973, Tu Youyou and her colleagues obtained the crystal Qinghao 2, which was used for the clinical trial in September 1973 at the Hainan Hospital. The clinical result was edited into book Qinghao Anti-Malaria Research, which Tu Youyou claimed as the editor. Moreover, in 2015, Tu Youyou donated this book to Nobel Museum in Stockholm as the exhibition document. In the right picture, we can see Tu Youyou held this book at the Nobel Museum in Stockholm before the donation. On page 27, we can see the detailed results of this clinical trial. Simply said, that Qinghaosu 2 was failed to treat falciparum malaria cases. Only one case was effective, but plasmodium came back in 6 days. 2 cases were ineffective. 2 cases were stopped giving medication because of cardiotoxicity. Such failed clinical trial proved that Qinghaosu 2 was not artemisinin, at least not pure artemisinin. No matter what Tu Youyou said, she got the real artemisinin, but as her nominator of Oscar Award and Nobel Prize, Dr. Su and Miller did not confirm this. Just look at the Alaska Foundation paper, Artemisinin Discovery from the Chinese Herbal Garden. They said, although Tu's team struggled to obtain the high-quality crystal from the plant in the following months, which means that Tu Youyou did not get the high-quality crystal. This is the second evidence. From the above 1973 clinical trial record, we can see when using Qinghaosu 2, the total dosage to treat malaria cases was 3 to 3.5 grams for each Vivax patient and 5 grams for falciparum patients. However, when using artemisinin for clinical trial, the total dosage to treat malaria cases was 300 milligrams for each Vivax patient and 500 milligrams to 700 milligrams for each falciparum patient. From this comparison, we can see the huge dosage of Qinghaosu 2 proved that about 90% of Qinghaosu 2 was impure, even toxic substance. Initially, reduced artemisinin was used to detect the structure of artemisinin. Later, it was used for modification to develop new drugs. Because no one wanted to claim its ownership, so no one picked a name for it. Reduced artemisinin was even not a name. Reduced only means the producing method. In her booklet, Qinghao Anti-Malaria Research published in 1979, Tu Youyou also used the name reduced artemisinin. Therefore, Tu Youyou was not the owner of reduced artemisinin. Tu Youyou attached the following infrared spectrum for the reduced artemisinin in page 193 of her book Qinghao and Qinghaosu-like Drugs, published in 2009. Tu Youyou attempted to use this infrared spectrum to show that she already obtained the reduced artemisinin crystal in 1973. However, this infrared spectrum was a fake document forged by Tu Youyou and contained many flaws. Flaw 1. While operation time only has years, months, but no days. Flaw 2. In September 1973, the clinical trial had just begun. How could research derivatives before the original drug? In 1973, the operating time must be filled by handwriting. However, this operating time, September 1973, was from the computer typing. There was no personal computer in China in 1973 until 1990. So, this fake infrared spectrum was fabricated by Tu Youyou at least after 1990. Moreover, it was ridiculous that both sample name and operator name were filled as reduced artemisinin. That may be Tu Youyou forget about the operator name many years ago. In 1976, Tu Youyou claimed that the anti-malarial efficacy ED50 of reduced artemisinin was 6 times of artemisinin, but was rejected by 510(3) Project Office because not using the chloroquine-resistant malaria strain for measuring. However, in 1986, Tu Youyou claimed that the anti-malaria efficacy SD50 of dihydroartemisinin, which was renamed from reduced artemisinin, was 10 times of artemisinin. Although Tu Youyou still was not using the chloroquine-resistant strain for measuring, but the 510(3) Project Office was retired in 1981. Therefore, no one had authorized the power to check her results. The China Ministry of Health would support whatever she said. Tu Youyou had unlimited freedom to make lies. In order to make her tenfold efficacy fake declaration more cheatable, Tu Youyou attached the following 2 tables with data ED50 and SD50 in page 198 of her book Qinghao and Qinghao-Su-like Drugs. This book was also the major supporting document for her Lasker Foundation Award and Nobel Prize. Let's rewrite those 2 tables in English. Table 341 was anti-malaria efficacy against the chloroquine-sensitive or called normal malaria strain. The efficacy SD50 of dihydroartemisinin is 0.99. The efficacy SD50 of artemisinin is 9.97. Therefore, the efficacy ratio would be 9.97 divided by 0.99 equals 10.01, approximately equal 10. That was the exact way how Tu Youyou obtained tenfold efficacy ratio. However, this is absolutely not correct. Also, from table 341, the efficacy ED50 of dihydroartemisinin is 12.2. The efficacy ED50 of artemisinin is 69.3. Therefore, the efficacy ratio would be 69.3 divided by 12.2 equals 5.7, approximately equals 6. That was the result which Tu Youyou obtained in 1976, but rejected by 523 Project Office because not using the chloroquine-resistant malaria strain. Certainly, the correct way is to use the chloroquine-resistant malaria strain to measure the anti-malaria efficacy as the 523 Project Office required. However, Tu Youyou intentionally removed data ED50 and SD50 of artemisinin from table 342, such that we cannot correctly calculate the anti-malaria efficacy ratio between dihydroartemisinin and artemisinin. Tu Youyou had a ridiculous theory. The efficacy ratio must be the same against the different kinds of malaria strains. Now let's read the English version paper anti-malaria studies on Qinghao published in Chinese Medical Journal in 1979. In the last lecture, we already showed that this paper had 9 editors, including Tu Youyou's institute. In the third page of this paper, there is one section to talk about comparing ED50 values of artemisinin for chloroquine-resistant malaria strain and chloroquine-sensitive malaria strain. The editor summarized the research result into following 2 tables. The table 1 listed experimental data for mouse infected by chloroquine-resistant strain and sensitive strain, respectively. The table 2 was to calculate 2 ED50 values and obtain the index of resistance value I50 equals 3.4. In a separate paper, the editor said the index of resistance value I50 for SD50 is about the same. Therefore, using this index value, we can recover the missing data in table 342, which was removed by Tu Youyou intentionally. From table 341, we can see the ED50 value of artemisinin for chloroquine-sensitive strain is 69.3. Then, by using the index of resistance value 3.4, the ED50 value of artemisinin for chloroquine-resistant strain will be 69.3 times 3.4 equals 236.96, approximately equal to 37. Therefore, the anti-malaria efficacy ratio of dihydroartemisinin against chloroquine-resistant malaria is 237 divided by 151 equals 1.57, approximately equal to. This is about the same value as Li Ying's efficacy ratio. From table 341, we can see that SD50 value of artemisinin for chloroquine-sensitive strain is 9.97. Then the SD50 value of artemisinin for chloroquine-resistant strain will be 9.97 times 3.4 equals 33.9. Therefore, the anti-malaria efficacy ratio of dihydroartemisinin against chloroquine-resistant malaria is 33.9 divided by 22.3 equals 1.53, approximately equals 2. This is also about the same as Li Ying's efficacy ratio. Now we list all efficient ratio calculations in the following. Against the chloroquine-sensitive strain, the efficacy ratio equals 10 for SD50, equals 5.7 for ED50. All those from Tu Youyou's data. Against the chloroquine-resistant strain, efficacy ratio equals 1.53 for SD50, equals 1.57 for ED50, and equals 1.70 for SD90. They are all from either Tu Youyou's data or from Shanghai Institute of Material Medical. Because 90% falciparum malaria cases are chloroquine-resistant currently, therefore, the anti-malaria efficacy ratio of dihydroartemisinin over artemisinin must be no more than 2. Tu Youyou's theory that the efficacy ratio is the same against a different malaria strain is absolutely wrong. The third phase clinical trial of Tu Youyou's Dihydroartemisinin was conducted by Tropical Disease Research Institute, supported to Guangzhou Traditional Medical University. Li Guoqiao, as the director of the institute, remembered that he had never done any clinical comparison test of anti-malarial efficacy between artemisinin and dihydroartemisinin. In 2003, Li Guoqiao led a Chinese medical team to Cambodia for fighting malaria. Then he had a good opportunity to conduct a comparison test to check the clinical efficacy ratio between artemisinin and dihydroartemisinin. However, the clinical trial conducted by Li Guoqiao at Cambodia in 2003 proved that the anti-malarial efficacy of artemisinin and dihydroartemisinin was roughly the same. Li Guoqiao wrote his comparison clinical test result in page 39 of the book Artemisinin-Based and Other Antimalarials. The following is a partial copy of this report from the book. Li Guoqiao said, the results showed that both drugs reduced parasitemia by 95% in 24 hours after medication, with 99% in 36 hours. Now, let's compare the clinical trials data between artemisinin and dihydroartemisinin. The 523 project document recorded that the average dose of artemisinin for 1 week course of treating malaria is 700 milligrams. However, the clinical trial of dihydroartemisinin reported that the average dose of dihydroartemisinin for 1 week course of treating malaria is 480 milligrams. But 700 divided 480 is about 1.44, is less than 2, and much smaller than 10. Therefore, the clinical anti-malaria efficacy ratio between dihydroartemisinin and artemisinin is certainly less than 2. From the above analysis and calculations, it can be seen that the anti-malaria efficacy of dihydroartemisinin is less than twice that of artemisinin pharmacologically as well as clinically. Therefore, the following Tu Youyou's new drug certificate for dihydroartemisinin from China Ministry of Health was illegal, because it was based on Tu Youyou's untrue, extremely implied tenfold anti-malaria efficacy assumption. Due to Tu Youyou's untrue declaration of tenfold anti-malaria efficacy, the international market price of medicine dihydroartemisinin was promoted to the triple that of artemisinin, which was about the same price of artemether. That would severely hurt many countries in third world with limited medical funding, because they had spent much more money to buy dihydroartemisinin but only get much lower anti-malaria medical power than they expected, and treated much less patients. Therefore, WHO should investigate the anti-malaria efficacy of dihydroartemisinin to see if it is really 10 times that of artemisinin. If after careful examination the true efficacy of dihydroartemisinin is really lower, then WHO should seriously address this issue to the China Commission of Health, because it was the China Ministry of Health approved dihydroartemisinin in 1992. Moreover, the dihydroartemisinin product must be expelled from list of WHO recommended drugs and prohibited from being sold on the world market in current high price. Artemisinin was important because it can successfully treat chloroquine-resistant malaria strain. However, the malaria strain resistant to artemisinin have emerged. Scientists already discovered if malaria strain cannot be cured by artemisinin, then after 17 generations reproduction, the malaria strain will be resistant to artemisinin. Therefore, to prevent artemisinin-resistant malaria strain from spreading, it is necessary to use anti-malaria drugs with higher efficacy. The lower efficacy anti-malaria medicines must be stopped. Suppose the pharmacological anti-malaria efficacy of artemisinin is 1, then the efficacy of dihydroartemisinin will be 2. The efficacy of Artemisinin will be 3. The efficacy of Artemisinin will be 6. Although the pharmacological anti-malaria efficacy of artemisinin is only 3, however, its clinical efficacy will be tripled by the intravenous injection. To prevent artemisinin-resistant strain from spreading, we suggest the WHO to stop using all anti-malaria drugs whose efficacy was less than 6. That means to stop using products of artemisinin, dihydroartemisinin, and Artemisinin. Particularly, dihydroartemisinin must be stopped. China has a consumer interest protection law. The law prohibits manufacturers or sellers from fabricating actual product data to induce consumers to buy their products in high priority or high price. The law also allows consumers to sue manufacturers or sellers if their fake data harms their interests. Obviously, that Tu Youyou fabricated the efficacy data of dihydroartemisinin from 2 to 10 was violated this law. Based on this Chinese law, any person or country could sue Tu Youyou and her institute if they had evidences to prove their people's death was due to the lower anti-malaria efficacy of dihydroartemisinin. Since 1992, after Tu Youyou obtained the certificate of dihydroartemisinin from Ministry of Health, some famous Chinese scientists began to question her fake invention. The left was a letter from Shanghai Institute of Organic Chemistry to the China Science and Technology Commission in 1993. They said that Tu Youyou just picked up some compound left by other scientists to make dihydroartemisinin. Also, they questioned the true efficacy of dihydroartemisinin. This was a fighting between fraud and anti-fraud that had lasted for more than 40 years. We cannot allow Tu Youyou to contaminate the Nobel Prize. Despite the strong opposition from some famous scientists, in 2016, Tu Youyou obtained the China's highest scientific and technological invention award because of invention of dihydroartemisinin. The following was the ceremony picture to receive this award from Xi Jinping, the chairman of Chinese government, in 2016. We appeal that the Lasker Foundation and the Nobel Prize Committee to investigate whether the anti-malarial efficacy of dihydroartemisinin against the chloroquine-resistant malaria strain is 10 or 2. If the investigation results turn out that Tu Youyou deliberately fabricated the efficacy data, then both of her Lasker Award and Nobel Prize should be revoked. This was like if your students deliberately fabricate the laboratory data, should you give them an F or A? More Tu Youyou's cheating material will come soon next time. Bye-bye.